In the architecture and scaling videos for the Sitecore Experience Commerce product, we have covered a good amount of data flow examples that should have given you an understanding of how and when and why each of the different architecture entities interact. The Sitecore 9 product series consists of three major products: the Sitecore Experience Manager, the Sitecore Experience Platform, and finally Sitecore Experience Commerce. Each of the Sitecore products contains a number of logical entities, which together with a number of cloud services forms the entire functionality of the Sitecore platform. It's highly recommended to start by watching the logical architecture videos across all the products, as a solid understanding of the logical architecture is important to understand the technical server architecture and choose the correct setup for your business scenario. When planning a deployment of Sitecore Experience Commerce, it's important to consider the full Sitecore product stack, as your final solution will most likely rely on the roles in the Sitecore Experience Manager and Sitecore Experience Platform products. However, in order to focus on the scalability of the Sitecore Experience Commerce roles, most of the details for the Sitecore Experience Manager and Sitecore Experience Platform roles has been left out in the following diagrams. Please refer to the architecture and scaling overview videos for these products for details on the logical roles and physical scaling examples. Here in the first example, you can see a typical minimally scaled instance, which is a very typical developer machine setup. Here you have a single machine with all the architecture entities installed on it. You can see all of the databases, indexes, and business tools elements are present. And one of the interesting things here is that all the engine roles has been combined into a single engine instance. Now, this is the simplest architecture that you can create for Sitecore Experience Commerce. And while it would be fine for a developer or for evaluation purposes, you likely wouldn't see this topology in use anywhere else. So let's start by scaling this out. Now we're still looking at a single machine being used for all the elements here. So this is an alternative development machine configuration, or a scaled development machine configuration might be a more appropriate name for it. This is very similar to the developer setup. However, now we've scaled out the different engine roles into their own instances. This gives the advantage that it would more closely match a production environment, given the developer the confidence that they won't run into architecture-based issues, as they've been developing against a configuration that more closely matches production. Now, in this example, we've moved away from the developer machine concept to what would commonly be seen on a small, low-traffic test environment. Here we still have the various engine roles and business tools elements running on a single server. However, we've now moved the databases and indexes off to be hosted on a separate server. This means you can individually scale the resources used by the indexes and the databases and the web instances as a whole. This setup is possible both in an on-premise and cloud-based infrastructure as a service, as well as in a Microsoft Azure platform as a service setup. Now we're carrying on scaling out the architecture. Here you can see the dedicated database and indexing resources previously introduced. But we now have separated out the business tools from the engine instances. In this scenario, you can still have the engine roles combined or scaled out across application pools or web apps in a server or app service plan. This means that you can vertically scale the engine instances or the business tools individually and independently of the Sitecore Experience Manager and Experience Platform roles to correctly handle the load as required. Continuing down this path, you can see how each of the roles have also now been pushed out to their own instances, either on-premise or IaaS servers, or as Azure PaaS app services. This gives you the ability to individually scale each of the engine roles as required, For example, if you have a storefront with a large amount of traffic, you can scale the shops role to handle more traffic than the others. Another example would be a site where you have a large number of merchandisers making a large number of frequent changes. This architecture would give you the ability to scale out the authoring role to be able to handle the load. So as you can see, there's a great deal of flexibility in the way you can deploy Sitecore Experience Commerce, allowing you to truly tailor your deployment to match your needs.